It's showtime, baby. Let's go. Woo! What's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, Ashman Jeff Turnipole, and as always, I bring you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of my new pre-game Bengals show. At every Bengals home game, Moreline Longer House, we'll be doing a pre-game show there. Make sure you guys come and join us each and every Sunday. Price points to be announced later on. We got a lot of cool stuff coming on, but make sure you check it out each and every Sunday. Stay tuned to my social media, the show, Moreline Logger House, all that stuff. We will get out the information as soon as we can. But also, if you have not checked out Midwest Best Barbecue, why the hell not? Big Sandwich Greg was just out there, had, I think, the new lemon spice, lemon chicken, something like that. It sounded delicious. It's a new wing. Or one you hadn't tried yet. You guys should check it out. And tell Tim and Nicole Ice sent you. Also, the show is brought to you by Meyer Door and Windows and more. Check them out at www.meyercincinnati.com for all your window and door needs. Also, Hail Mary is your ticket to the game right there in the heart of Cheviot. No Reds game tonight because they lost again to the freaking Pirates. But you can go there and drown your sorrows in some beer and some specials and some food trucks and all that stuff. What is up to everybody in the chat? You got Stranger in there, Paul Painter in there, and Big Marshall. What is going on? All right, guys. So, the Reds lost 1-0 versus the Pirates. They lost the series. They're tied for last place with the Scrubs. They are 8.5 games back of first place. What in the hell happened? Let's get to the man who all he does is talk Reds every single day. It's kind of like me, on here every day. He's Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds. Jeff, what's going on, brother?
Hey, Jeff. Good to see you, man.
Oh, my goodness. What the heck happened, man? We were doing stuff in the offseason. We were so excited. We were going to have such a deep team. Pitching was going to be great, which, by the way, Hunter Green pitched awesome today. What is going on? Why can't we hit the ball?
It's just the lineups in flux, man. I mean, today was a weird day where it felt like David Bell gave a couple of off days. I mean, Jeimer Candelario kind of came up a little bit, kind of holding his hamstring a little bit on Tuesday night's game, so you knew he was probably not going to play today. But you also had TJ Friedel that's on the bench, and they're not going to put him on the IL because they think he can avoid it. But essentially, his spot was, marked off because you're not going to be able to play him in this last game. And then they also gave Tyler Stevenson a day off. So you had a lineup that it felt like the bottom half of the lineup was anybody's guess as to what it was going to do. Right. That's kind of the tough one with this is that they're playing a lot of the roster as if they still have the kind of depth that they were going to have when they were fully healthy, and they just don't.
Right, and that's the thing here. And I agree with Brad here if I ever get his comment up here. He says, why the hell can't the Reds score at least 2 runs? That's a good question. And I kind of tweeted this out on your thread today, saying we don't have the players that we thought we were going to have. But, I mean, even in this stretch here, the last, 2 months where we've been up and down, the guys TJ Friedel's been in and out of the lineup. Marte hasn't been there, and McLean. Other than that, most of everybody else was on the team last year, a part of that 12-game winning streak, is here. And this is one thing I talked to you about, I think, the offseason, that I was concerned about losing the leadership of Joey Votto, but I was okay with that because I thought Matt McLean could take over for that. But Matt McLean has been injured, and hopefully, cross fingers, he'll be back by August. Like I said, I'm not exactly counting on that, but do you think is that the problem? Because, I mean, yes, I know we don't have as many people, and we've had a lot of injuries, but even the guys that are there playing consistently, we're getting picked off first base. Our base running is terrible. Our base running was really good last year. We're stealing lots of bases. We had guys who grinded at-bats out last year, and we're getting hits constantly. And we just can't get to that this year for some reason. And it's basically the same team minus Joey Votto. Really, and Jimmy Candelario.
Well, and the good news is, I was looking at this the other day. The 22-game stretch where the Reds went 5-17, and it felt like the season was over at that point. They were really, really bad when it came to the lineup. They averaged 3 runs a game. They had a team OPS of 611. Not good, not good. So you look at that and you say, how can you get better than that? The next 22 games, they flipped the script. They're averaging just over 4.5 runs a game. They've got an OPS, team OPS of about 760. Everything is looking up in that department. And the base running thing for me, like especially on the Tuesday night game or the Monday night game that they ended up losing, I kind of chalk that up to just some amazing pickoff moves from Paul Skeens and from Aroldis Chapman. Aroldis Chapman's always had that move. Right. I think Nick Martini, I don't necessarily know that he got caught sleeping. I think
where the hell was he going? He stole a base in his career.
And he wasn't and
he wasn't going anywhere.
Right. It wasn't like he was trying, and I think that was a typical lead for him. He wasn't going further. It was more so just Aroldis Chapman surprising him with that move. So I kind of looked at that and I'm like, all right, let's see if there's something more to this. What's the base running look like? Overall for the season, the Reds are actually a top 10 team in Major League Baseball with their base running, especially when you look at their ability to go first to third, their ability to take an extra base, and they're a top 5 team as far as like taking that extra base and advancing in opportunities, because Baseball Savant, a website that I love to use for some different analytics and stuff like this, to help me understand the game more, they have a stat where they say how many times does a base runner, or a team in this case, try to take an extra base when it's not necessarily expected for them to do that. Right. The Reds are a top 5 team in attempting that, and they are a top 5 team in succeeding at that. So there's still a lot to be excited about overall. It's just these last 2 series, these last 6 games where they've gone on the road against divisional opponents, it feels like they've dropped the ball because they went 2-4 in those 6 games.
Right. And the thing that kills me is, and maybe it's my fault. Maybe I should have stayed on vacation. When I was on vacation a week and a half ago down in Myrtle Beach, they won 7 in a row. I'm going to B-Dubs watching the game. I'm like, all right. I love B-Dubs. We're back in this thing. All right, we're in second place. We're 6 out, or 6.5 out, I think it was. I'm like, all right, this is great. All right, cool. We're good. And then we go play Milwaukee, but for some freaking reason, we just cannot. The Milwaukee Brewers, remember when we had our run in 2010 to 2012? It seemed like we could never, the Cardinals. We could never beat the Tweetbirds. We could never, it just, whatever we did, we could not beat. And it feels like all of a sudden the Milwaukee Brewers have replaced them in that aspect. And it drives me freaking insane. I'm like, because I thought this is the year, Jeff. All right, Milwaukee they lost their manager. They traded their best pitcher away. Like, they're going to be rebuilding. Nope. They're in first place. And they kick our ass again. It's like, what the hell?
No, I 100% agree. I thought, especially, getting rid of Corbin Burns, losing their closer before the season even began. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's probably only a couple of weeks away from returning to the Brewers, Devin Williams, that is. But different things like that kind of point to the fact that this team was probably taking a step back. But their biggest thing and the biggest reason that they are where they are, I mean, William Contreras has been a nice revelation. Bryce Terang has been a nice revelation, but it's the return of Christian Yelich. Mm-hmm, Christian Yelich had become a very pedestrian hitter over the last few years. He has come all the way back to where he used to be this season. So that's kind of been their biggest difference and the reason that they're there. But when it comes to this Reds team, I still think that they are firmly within the playoff race. I think that the division is starting to get to the point where I'm worried that they're going to be done with the division probably in the next month or so if they can't really right this ship and start winning some ball games against their divisional opponents. But the National League is just a hodgepodge of mediocrity. Like, one big winning streak, and the Reds have already had a pretty nice one.
Yeah, 7
winning
games.
streak.
I mean, that's pretty good.
They do another one like that, they might be a wild card team entrenched because the Braves are falling back without their 2 best players, and that's rightfully so. I mean, they had the Cy Young winner and the MVP from last year, and they're both gone for the rest of the year. That's understandable that they're going to, not be as good as they were. But there's nobody outside of the Dodgers and the Phillies that are just going crazy with the National League. Like, there's opportunity here for the Reds to still make the playoffs as long as they just continue to hang around 500. Like, as annoying as 4 under 500 right now is, they're still right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying it's over yet. It's just, I'm just frustrated. Once we got the 7-game winning streak, I thought we were like, all right, next stop, we got to get to be 500. And like you said, we're 4 games under right now. So that brings me up to my next point, next question is, with the trade deadline coming up, and there's like I said, there's so many teams that are bunched right there, and it's open. Are you opponent of going out and getting the guy now, before the trade deadline? Because if you do it now, it's going to cost you a lot. Because then there's a whole bunch of other teams that want that guy, whoever that guy is. That's the plug-in to help the Reds offense. I think it's be off at the bat, to be honest, where I think they need to be. But
yes.
do we do that? Because the minor leagues is still stacked. It's not as stacked as it was. But it's still stacked. So do you take a chance of, is this the year? Because we always say this, you don't pick the year picks you. Do you think this is the year that you're like, all right, we're going to take some of the top prospects and go get that guy and go get him now?
Now is hard because it's not necessarily the aggressiveness of the Reds. It's more so the patience of the selling teams, the patience, because I think the Reds are buyers. And I think that there are a couple of guys out there that the Reds could go get, and it won't just benefit them for this year. It'll benefit them for multiple years. And that's really what Nick Krall has said over the last few years, that he has said, if I'm looking to make a deal at the deadline, that's what I'm looking for. He did that with Sam Maul, and there's a perfect opportunity out there, I believe, because the Oakland A's, I think, have been sellers even when they've been playoff teams. Like, somehow they still try to be a seller.
Yeah.
And they got a dude that right now, I don't necessarily know that it would fix all that ails the Reds, and now all of a sudden they're back in the divisional race, but it would certainly make me feel a lot better about this lineup. It's Brent Rooker, and I'm standing on tables. I'm trying to champion this cause. If the Reds go get him now, or if they get him in the deadline, whatever it is, go get Brent Rooker. He's 29 years old. He's not a free agent until 2028. He is a right-handed bat in the outfield with power. That's what they've needed since. I mean, they needed that in the offseason, and they didn't go get it. So right. I still kind of, confused about that. Although it's funny, I don't know if you thought about this when he came up to bat too, but Michael A. Taylor almost hit a home run on Tuesday's game, and it was robbed by Spencer Steer. An amazing catch by Spencer Steer. But it made me think, I'm just like, yeah, that was a guy that I really thought the Reds should go get, and he almost homered against them. How about that? But no. Go get Brent Rooker right now if you can. But I'm guessing that Oakland's going to slow play this. I've heard some other options like Luis Robert from the White Sox. I am not as bullish about that, although Luis Robert is better than Brent Rooker. But Luis Robert has 2 things. 1, he's got injury concerns. And 2, he plays for a general manager who the Reds tried to deal with to get Dylan Cease in the offseason. You remember what the White Sox were reportedly asking for.
Everything.
Luis Robert's better than Dylan Cease. So
right.
by all accounts, they got every right to ask for more than they asked for Dylan Cease. And that felt like the entire farm system. So I don't necessarily know that I want to see them go get him. If they can get him for a better deal, then that's good. But no, I want them to go trade for Brent Rooker right now, because that fixes a big area of need that I thought they've had since last season. Yeah,
well, the loss of CES that was our big bat.
Yes.
I mean that has been a bigger I won't say a bigger loss than I thought it would be. I knew it was going to be a big loss. Hopefully he's going to come back, but he's got to find out if he can play with the pain in his wrist or his hand. somewhere around there. One of
It's
those.
his wrist. He's got
Yeah.
it's ligament damage because he had a broken bone in his hand or in his wrist, and then they also found that there was ligament damage. Which
Right.
David Bell used the verbiage we knew all along. I was like,
Yeah.
why are we just now hearing about it?
Right.
But whatever. But yeah, he's been a big loss. And Matt McClain, you mentioned this.
That's a big one.
Yeah, you mentioned this earlier. I'm kind of with you. I'm a little skeptical about this whole August rehab thing. Like, don't get me wrong, I will love it if it works out.
Yeah.
But are we jeopardizing his future, which
Right.
looks to be pretty bright,
Yeah.
to get him back this season and whatever that might look like? Because the dude had labrum surgery in March. And that's, you go from March and then you're back rehabbing in August? That feels very
Fast.
quickly to me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I remember last year. I think we'll talk about this last year when you were on my show. Last year when the bottom, I would say the bottom fell out because I mean they were still in it till like the last 2 days of the season, but they weren't as winning as often as they were last year when Matt McClain went down. Now Marte came in, they kind of picked it up, but you don't have Marte in the lineup right now, or you're not going to have him here until hopefully at the end of this month. He'll come back and. It sounds like he's raking down in the minor leagues, but that's where I got the concerns. Like, all right, losing McClain is huge, and I don't know. I think 2 key guys in this lineup. One, TJ Friedl. I think he's just sets this batting order up when he's in there and he's playing right. The other one is Matt McClain. I know they've been putting Ellie at 2 spot. I think they like him there. I prefer Matty Bats at the 2 spot. I like him and TJ and then Ellie is what I would like, but. That's neither here nor there. Those 2, I think, really set this lineup up, and I think that's what's really hurt them with Matt not being there and TJ being mostly out of the lineup most of the season.
And I look at that, and I definitely agree from that angle. There's another angle, too, and I feel like this team has, on the lineup side of things, on the pitching side of things, it's got Green and Lodolo. Mm-hmm. On the lineup side of things, it's got Ellie and McClain. Mm-hmm. And when you're missing McClain, that puts so much more pressure on Ellie to be the guy. And I was excited when he was coming up, leading off the 9th inning here on Wednesday's game. And I was thinking, hey, they could really get something going. And he hits a long fly ball out. And you're just like, man, that's the tough part. It feels like last year when Ellie wasn't on, Matt McClain was, and vice versa. If Matt McClain wasn't on, then Ellie was.
Yes.
When you don't have one half of that dynamic duo, when you're missing part of that dynamic duo, that's a big deal. And I feel like early on in the season, I thought the Reds could somehow figure out a way to replace him, but with all of their other injuries, that just seems to have been a very difficult thing to do. I mean, Jonathan India has done a solid job of he's really good with the plate discipline, but the power hasn't necessarily been consistent, and the hitting hasn't really been consistent for him. He's not been like a 1-for-1 replacement for Matt McClain.
No, not whatsoever. Now, I thought this was interesting. When Marte comes back up, David Bell mentioned that he would move him around, play some third, play some short, play some second. I won't say I hate that, but Marte was so good at third base last year.
Yes,
I mean, he was so good. I mean, you put him at third base, that's lockdown defense right there. At third base, you could move Candelario to first base, or I think he's a better first baseman than he's a third baseman, and then kick Steer out to left field and just leave him there. Because honestly, I think this moving Steer around, he can do it, but I think it's taxing on him. If he could just go to one spot and stay there for at least for a couple weeks, that would be nice. If you had those 3 sets in those positions, I think that's going to set your lineup. Now, you do that, and Marte can't play in the playoffs, but still, hopefully he gives him a spark to at least, that's the one thing I'm hoping for, Jeff. That's the one we got coming that could help.
Yeah, and he has looked pretty decent to start his rehab outing. And the interesting part about this is when he begins his season, he will begin his season with a 16-game hitting streak.
Right.
There's that as well. Mm-hmm. I tell you, though, the whole, we'll play him at different positions. Jeff, just if we all had somebody that loved us as much as David Bell loves players that play multiple positions, or at least the idea of players that play multiple positions, then we would all never feel lonely. Because David Bell just cannot help himself when it comes to moving guys around. No. And sure, there's been some necessity when it comes to moving Spencer Steer back to first base and things like that. But that's also one of the reasons that I think they should go get Brent Rooker, because then you free up Spencer Steer to have the ability to stay at first base. And then they don't have to worry about, well, is CES going to be okay? Give him the ability to heal, things like that. And that kind of ties back into that. But with the idea of moving Marte around and him saying shortstop, I also saw that the other article that was in the Inquirer the other day that said that the Reds are evaluating Elly De La Cruz's shortstop defense. I think, and it's not to say that they're moving him out of shortstop because they don't like the errors. I think they're setting the table for, in a year or two, whenever Edwin Arroyo is ready to come up to the major leagues, they can then move Elly De La Cruz to another position, whatever that is. If that's third base, if that's the outfield, whatever it could be. Because if they start that now, then it won't feel like such like a ripping off of a Band-Aid whenever Edwin Arroyo is finally close to ready. Of course, he's not going to be playing the rest of the year because he suffered the same injury that Matt McLain did, and they're definitely going to slow play his recovery, make sure that he is.
But McLain's going to be back in August.
Right. It's like
that's where I'm like. Last time out here, I'm like, I know they said that. I don't want to hurt Matt McLain. I will. Right. I'd rather him sit out and be healthy, and he can be the all-star, leader of this second baseman of this team for the future, other than trying to rush him back for this season. Now the interesting thing you say that, because I said this in the offseason that Arroyo I think is our future shortstop, and people and I said, and I've been saying this, that I think Elly it could be a great center fielder. Now we just lost the greatest living baseball player in Willie Mays. And you always say the next Willie Mays. There will never be another Willie Mays. There's one Willie Mays. That's it. It's like there's one Michael Jordan. That's it. There's only one of these guys. I think Elly has the athletic ability to be like that.
Play an all-time great. Yeah.
Yes, and in center field, because I know your co-host does not like that idea. He doesn't want to see Elly crashing into walls and all that stuff, which I understand. But the idea of it for me is Ken Griffey Jr. That's the best center fielder, either him or Eric Davis in Eric Davis' heyday, are the two best center fielders I ever saw play live. They are freaking phenomenal. That's what Elly could do, I think, in center field. If you have Arroyo at second base, McLain at shortstop, Marte at third, that's a damn solid freaking infield right there. And you can put Steer or CS, whoever, at first base. That's a solid defense right there. And old school, I'm old. Your defense, you want to set it up the middle. Your best defensive players, you want it up the middle. I think Elly could play a Gold Glove center field. Go ahead.
I agree, and you see different throws. Like, I know that there was a lot of folks that were making a lot of, a pretty big deal about the throw that Jackson Churio made to get Stuart Fairchild there at the end of the Brewers series. There was a lot of folks that were making a big deal about the throw that Michael A. Taylor had the other day he didn't get, I'm trying to remember who it was at second base. It was close, though. It was a much closer play than it should have been. But I will say that arm in center field would just be absolutely phenomenal. And to add on to it, because you made the point about Arroyo at short, every report, every scout, every person that watches minor league baseball for the Reds says that the best shortstop in this organization defensively is Edwin Arroyo. Yep. He's better than Elly. He's better than McLain. He's better than anybody at shortstop. So that's where your take, and I agree with your take, that's where our takes come from when it comes to Edwin Arroyo playing shortstop once he gets up here.
Yeah, and I got roasted last year for that. Like, oh, no, Elly's going to be a shortstop. Like, why would you move Elly? I'm like, well, I'm not saying he's a bad shortstop. Elly does good, but he makes too many mistakes. And to me, it's like, if you got center field, the thing is, well, he's got to learn how to track the ball. Have you ever seen him do? He does the Willie Mays. He does the basket catch at shortstop. He tracks the ball fine. He can go out to center field, and I don't think he'd miss a beat. And with his arm, he throws 100 miles an hour. I mean, you're talking Bo Jackson-esque arm. Have you ever seen anybody throw anybody out for left? Go check out Bo Jackson throwing out Harold Reynolds on YouTube. I mean, it's unfreaking believable. That's what Ellie has, and that's, for me, it's like, and you put him in center field, I think it just turns his brain off. He doesn't. Center field, shortstop, you got to think of everything. You got to be the captain of the infield. Center field, it's easier. I'm sorry.
I think he could be the best arm that we've ever seen in the Reds outfield. Like,
oh yeah.
So I'm trying to think of who his. I mean, I guess his biggest competition would be like Jay Bruce right now or something like that. But because I think of him and I'm like, man, you see the throws that he makes from shortstop. Just increase the distance a little bit. In fact, the thing that, and it still sticks in my mind, it was an error because it sailed over Jeimer Candelario's head at first base, but the throw that he made, I want to say it was in Washington, that went like 100, it was like 103 miles an hour or something like that, and because it was an error, they said, oh, well, we're not counting that. Like, it was still going up when it got to first base.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you see that throw from like the outfield or something? That's like a Vladimir Guerrero throw, Vladimir Guerrero Sr. throw.
That's a missile.
Who was, like that's the kind of thing that's gonna nab somebody at home plate on a potential sac fly
with ease.
Yeah.
With ease. That's.
I could definitely see this working out. So there were a lot of folks that wanted to overreact about the, they're talking about playing Marte short. Oh, they're talking about, they're evaluating Ellie's defense. And sure, if you want to put a lot of stock into errors, I don't. Errors are a statistic that were contrived years ago so that somebody could put some sort of meaning to fielding. Because, I mean, think about what an error is. An error is a judgment call from the official scorer. And there are multiple different times during a game where we will be like, oh, is that an error or a hit? Because the dude with the book is going to make that decision. And then there's a lot of times we don't agree with that guy because it is a judgment call. Now, sure, there are some plays that he boots. There's some plays that he just doesn't make that you feel like he should make. But I kind of put that on him being a young guy. But at the same time, it just feels like there isn't a position on the field, and I think I even include pitcher in this, that he couldn't play very well.
Oh God, no. No, he can play. He can play catcher if you want. He can pitch.
Yeah, he can be a gold glove catcher.
Yeah, he can pitch. He's the best athlete I've seen probably since Eric Davis in a Reds uniform. I mean, honestly, that's Ellie. There's nothing Ellie can't do. That's why I am never going to be upset. I mean. I get upset when he makes errors. It's irritating, but I understand. And for me, I'm just like, leave him there. Leave him at shortstop for right now.
Yeah.
Put Marte at third, and let's go. We don't need to keep moving everybody around. I mean, you can move all right. Let's just say Arroyo's ready next year, which there might be a big junk. He's not gonna play this year, so most likely not. But let's just say for conversation that Arroyo will be ready next year. Arroyo, all right, Arroyo, you're going to be a shortstop. Ellie, go play winter ball, which you always does. Go around and play center field. You got all season to learn how to do it. You can do it. I don't think it'd be that big of a deal for him to do that. I want to get the honest fan here. First, a statement. He said, I'm the biggest Will Benson fan alive. It's killing me watch him what seems to be a season-long slump. And he says, I still believe in him, not giving up. What's Jeff's thoughts? I think he means that Jeff.
I'm with you, man. Honest fan. I love Will Benson as well. I think that it's kind of hard to define what his slump is because he does have a super high strikeout rate. And a lot of that is he is very picky. He knows what pitches he can hit and what pitches he will swing and miss at. But it also feels like there are some at-bats, and I saw it, in this game here today where it was just like he goes up to the plate and he's swinging. He's going to hit the ball. He's coming up with an aggressive mindset, and it's good morning, good afternoon, good night, and he's back on the bench. There's been bats like that seem to just kind of take him over, and he's very streaky. I think that, a good comparison for him, at least right now, and maybe you will see a bit of a renaissance with him later on this season, but as of right now, I do think of him as a Jay Bruce, where it's like there's going to be a couple weeks where he is on fire. But unlike Jay Bruce, his weeks where he's not on fire, he's going to be real bad at the plate just because of how things have been rolling for him. His batting average has been horrible this season, but his slugging percentage and his on-base percentage are still doing all right. I think the biggest disappointment that I have with him this year is that they gave him a shot to be an everyday player, and he just didn't take that baton and run with it.
Yeah, and I thought, honestly, here's one of my bold predictions this year. I thought he might be a breakout player this year. I thought he was going to take the next step, and unfortunately he hasn't. And then that goes, I mean, I would say he's a big reason why this offense isn't consistent, because he was more consistent last year. Yes, he was still streaky, but he was more streaky hot than cold last year. This year he's been the exact opposite. So that has been a disappointment that he has not hit to the way he did last year. I still believe in him, and honestly, I agree with you. I call him Willie B. Bad. I love him. I hope he actually gets it going, but that is concerning. And like you said, they gave him the opportunity, and he didn't take advantage of it. So that's why David Bell needs to go back to the platoon. I mean, he's proven they gave him enough rope to, quote unquote, hang himself. He did not accomplish it. So now it's time we got to win. We got to go back to the platoon system here.
And part of his performance looking a lot better in 2023 was because they limited his exposure to lefties, and they didn't like force this everyday thing.
Well, that's what TJ Friedl being out. That's why he's right. That's the problem. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You're exactly right, because TJ Friedl is an everyday player because he can hit lefties just as well as he hits righties. And without him, they were like, let's see if somebody else can step into that role. And neither Benson nor Fraley really ran with that. So that's been the toughest thing for me when it comes to Will Benson. I think that overall he's looked better defensively out in the outfield than he did last year. I think that he plays center field a lot better than he was given credit for last year, and we've seen that earlier on this season. But the biggest issue for me is that big split, and then now it feels like his playing time is here and there and everywhere, and we just haven't seen him catch that groove and get rolling. And the hardest part too with all of this is, so what does it mean? Does it mean you can send him down to AAA and then we'll see him come back up with that fervor that he had last year and really take off? Not really, unless you're calling up Connor Capel,
or who are you going to replace him with? That's the thing.
Or you're giving Reese Hines a look, which as much as I love Reese Hines and the power, he also strikes out more than Will Benson does. So that'd be a hard sell for me. That's the biggest part of this, is that there's not necessarily the kind of guy that can give him the break that he got last year and then turned into Super Benson.
Exactly. I like that. Super Benson. All right, honestly, I had another one here. I like this. With the Reds having the second pick, who do you prefer, Cardone or Bazana? I can't ever say it.
Bazana. Yeah,
Bazana.
I want Bazana. I don't think he's going to be there, though. I think Cleveland's going to pick him. The interesting thing, because I've seen, I think it was MLB Pipeline that did this in one of their latest mocks, is that they're not sold on the idea that it's either Bazana or Condon for the Reds. They think that I think it's Chase Burns, pitcher from Wake Forest.
Okay.
Something about Wake Forest pitchers. I mean, Rhett Lauder teammate. That Chase Burns could be a target for them there at number 2 as well. Either way, it's going to be a college player, which is nice. That means that he shouldn't have too long in the minors before we see him hit the major leagues. But I would prefer Bazana, or Bazana. I'm gonna do that, by the way. After the Reds pick him, it's gonna be Bazana. Tomato. But I would prefer Bazana, but I don't think he's gonna be there.
So speaking of that, how's our number 1 pick from last year, Rhett Lauder? He's in AA right now. Is that right? Am I correct on that? And he's pitching pretty good.
He is. I know his most recent start, he hit a little bit of a snag. He only threw 2 2/3 innings, and the reason for that was in that third inning of the start, he hit 30 pitches. And the Reds have a hard and fast organizational rule that if a pitcher gets to 30 pitches in an inning, they pull him, because they think that at that point, there's really not a whole lot of redeeming value of leaving him in there. So it's more to protect him and protect his development than it is, like, oh, we're are going to let him work through this, throw 30 pitches in an inning, and then come back out for another inning to see what he's got. So hopefully his next start he'll go a little bit deeper into the ball game. But he has hit a few challenges at Double-A that I think is probably going to keep him down there a little bit longer. He's a guy, though, that I earmarked as not really being part of this year's plan.
That was my next question. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
Took it over there.
We're right here, Jeff. We're right here. Two Jeffs.
That's what happens. Jeffs think alike. Jeffs fly together.
Jeffs fly together. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you got that. But when it comes to Rhett Lauder, I thought that he's a 2025 guy, not a 2024 guy, mostly for his own sake and not necessarily because they think that they're fine without him. They've got some interesting depth, and Connor Phillips has looked kind of bad at AAA this year, and so has Lyon Richardson. So some of that has been tested, but I don't think that is going to accelerate his timetable. I think that they're still going to give him enough time to work through AA, maybe a little bit of time to work through AAA, and then he'll be part of the rotation conversation next year.
Now, you brought up Connor Phillips. Do you think, and I want to say the Cowboy brought this up on TV or radio, I can't remember. Maybe I heard it somewhere else. But Connor Phillips, he made the last start last year, or his last start last year of where all the chips were on the table. We had to win this game to try to have a chance, and he couldn't get out of the first inning. Do you think that has affected him this year?
Probably, but he's also said, and Major League Baseball has really worked to implement some sort of automatic balls and strike system in AAA. He's told, because my co-host Steve, he got the chance to talk to Connor Phillips for an extended conversation last year. And Connor said very poignantly, he said, I don't like the automatic balls and strike system because I think his stuff is more deceptive to an umpire than it is to a machine, because obviously the machine has a hard and fast line, and if you don't hit that line, it's not a strike.
Right.
And he has this really, really bad stat line right now that he has more walks than strikeouts for the season.
Right.
And that is more than anything. Like, I don't put a lot of stock into AAA ERAs or AAA, batting averages against. What I do put stock in is strikeout to walk ratio. And having more walks than strikeouts on the season for a starting pitcher is just really hard to explain away, other than something ain't right and he's got to work on it.
Right. By the way, I like the Bronson Arroyo shirt there. I got my Bronson Arroyo autographed ball here, so I had to put that out there. All right, so next one is, and I hope it's not an ice jinx, but I finally got actual Red to be on my show, and it was Graham Ashcraft. And, his season hasn't gone that well.
Right.
And he's back down in the minors. Is this you think this is just to get him set, or they're really taking a real hard look at not Chris Spires. Who was the pitcher the other day?
Carson Spires.
Carson Spires, thank you. I want to say Chris Spires. Carson Spires. Do they really want to take a look at him, at Carson Spires, or are they just saying, Graham, just go down there, get your shit together, basically, and we'll bring it back up?
I think if you were to kind of say what it is between the two things, I think it's 80-20. Mm-hmm. This is about getting Graham right, more so than it is giving Carson Spires a look. Carson Spires has looked okay. I mean, his long relief appearance the other day was fantastic, and the 6 innings that he threw in Milwaukee or against Pittsburgh on Monday were surprising in that his first inning he gave up 3 runs, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to be a fast start. But it didn't end up being that. He was able to buckle down and turn things around. But I think this is mostly about Graham getting right. And quite frankly, he's not that far off. When you look at his numbers, the 6 starts that he had this year that were very unimpressive were 6 starts of a 6.5 ERA. Mm-hmm. Last year, he had 8 starts of a 12.5 ERA.
Right.
So even though he's been kind of bad for this stretch this year, it's not near as bad as it was last year where they let him pitch through it. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit of the Reds saying, we think we got a shot this year, and you working on stuff at the major league level just isn't going to be good for us.
Right.
So we want you to work on stuff, but you're going to have to do it at AAA. And so I think that's what he's doing right now. His most recent start, he looked a lot more pitch efficient, only had 1 walk, did have 4 strikeouts in 6 innings. So I'm looking for more of that from him. You know, what's the walk to strikeout thing? Because, you know, hits and runs allowed and stuff like that in AAA, it's really hard to figure out because the fielding just isn't as good as it is in the major league level. So I don't put a lot of stock in that. But what is your strikeout to walk ratio? And so far, that's been all right.
Now, see, I'm not saying this because he's been on my show. I mean, I've been a Graham Ashcraft fan since Cup. When he's on,
he's awesome.
He's a damn bulldog, and I love him. I want that type of pitcher on the staff. I mean, when he's on, he reminds me of Tom Browning. That's who he reminds me of. So that's where I'm hoping. Graham, if you're watching, I believe in you. You're going to come back. I believe in you. So that's where I'm the same way. Where I think it's more of, they want to see what Spires can do, but it's more of, Graham, get yourself together and we're going to bring it back up. Because last year, he did the same thing last year. You just said it. He had a terrible first half, and he was lights out second half. He was, and he also had some injuries last year. Hasn't had the injuries this year, but it's annoying that it's the same thing, but hopefully it's something he can work on, but we'll see. Let's see here, Brad. I think the Reds would have been much better this year if Joey Votto was here to be a mentor. Votto is in the minor leagues with the Blue Jays. He sprained his ankle, and he made his first rehab start. So I get when everybody says that, and yes, on the bench would be great to talk, but I don't know what Joey Votto gives you offensively. And that's where I go back to my point of, I think Matt McLain, that part is hurting this team as far as leadership or whatever. And what's your thoughts, Jeff?
The interesting
and
thing
I love Joey Votto, just saying.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this is, remember Nick Krall, was it back in December or whatever, when they officially declined his option and he became a free agent, Nick Krall said that there just weren't at-bats for him.
Right.
Well, it was like he said that, and then Karma was just like, well, hold my beer. Get ready for this.
Right, exactly.
There have been, and they definitely could have used him when it comes to having him on the field and stuff like this. But I think the hardest part about the mentor thing is how much of that we know and how much of that we guess at. Because I don't know. I know that there were, reports that Will Benson really talked to him and he helped him out and things like that. But it feels like there's just certain things that certain people say and it just clicks. Mm-hmm. And whatever that might have been that Joey said, like, is he going to be able to say that again?
Right.
Because I know, what happens in my life when there's an aha moment. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can do that twice.
Right.
And I don't necessarily know that Joey is the Mr. Miyagi that we think he can be, because he is a good player in and of himself. And we're not necessarily, I don't know. It's hard to talk about whether or not a player is a mentor. And just the fact that he's an old player doesn't mean that he is.
I mean, I'll put it to you this way. Like, when we went on the 12-game winning streak last year, Joey Votto wasn't part of the team. And if you remember the conversation last year, when Votto comes back, like, well, I hope Votto doesn't mess up the chemistry on this team. I mean, that was the talk last year. Now it's like, well, you should have got Votto back. I'm like,
Votto's going to mess up the chemistry when he's on this team, and now that he's off this team, he's messing up the chemistry because he's not here.
Right, exactly. So that's where I'm like, Votto, I love Votto. I don't think, could his presence help? Yeah. Is he going to fix everything that's wrong with this team? No. I mean, injuries, and the guys, like we just said, Will Benson is not having the season we thought he would have. Jake Fraley isn't having the season we thought he would have. We're missing TJ Friedl has been injured most of the season. Marte hasn't played at all. McLean had. I mean, there's so many other reasons other than Joey Votto not being here. And the pitching's been really good, by the way.
I would say this, and this is what everybody's thinking. They're just like, well, you'd rather have Mike Ford? No. I mean, would this team have been better with Joey Votto instead of Mike Ford? Sure.
Sure, but I don't think it fixes everything.
Right. Like, this team went through a systemic slump in their lineup for the better part of 3 weeks, really almost 4 weeks. And that was the biggest issue with the whole 22 games where they went 5-17. It wasn't the pitching. The pitching was fine. There were a couple of games where the bullpen blew it.
Our pitching's been pretty good all year.
Pitching's been the strength of this team. And the lineup has been super inconsistent and kind of hard to rely on, although they've been better as of late. But it's something to say that, like, would a locker room presence really have changed all of that? I don't think that's the case.
I think I do think it helped in the locker room. On the field, give him a couple of bats here and there, sure. I mean, it's funny, Jeff. We were talking about the depth of this team in the offseason. Oh my goodness, we got what are we going to do with Jonathan India? He has no place to play. Well, he's played second base pretty much every freaking day.
That was another thing that Karma was just like, hold my beer.
Right, exactly. So it's just like you sometimes the injuries really hurt, and that's what I think has really hurt this team. Injuries and just players being more inconsistent than we thought they would be. And not taking that next leap.
It's
and they're young.
It's the unsexy take when it comes to the Reds in 2024. But yeah, injuries and inexperience have been the biggest thing.
It's the truth. I mean, it drives me nuts. I mean, trust me, I'll tweet like, why can't we hit like we did last year? I'm like I said, I mean, I still don't have the answer of why we're not hitting like we did last year, because we're just not. To me, that is the like you said, the inconsistency in this lineup has been the biggest problem with this team. If it could be, when it's consistent, look at the 7-game winning streak. That's what this team can look like. It just hasn't done it consistently. I don't know what the answer is. Some people always want to blame David Bell. I am not a huge David Bell fan, but David Bell's not the one out there hitting the ball. I sometimes I wish he would go after. And maybe he does it privately, I don't know, but go after his players a little bit more, where he's getting thrown out because of the strobe lights in Pittsburgh. I get where what he's upset about. It's kind of stupid that they're flickering lights while you're trying to warm up. Makes it a little difficult. I get that.
Yeah.
But do you really think that's what he was mad about? You really think he's just pissed off because two of his players got picked off? Those are things, like Lou Piniella would go freaking nuts, but it would be, and he'd get mad at his players. David Bell's got that anger, but I don't see him putting that fire into the players for some reason. Just me. I don't know.
He's a guy that, like, every time you see a report or a quote from a player, they're always talking glowingly about him and they love playing for him and stuff like that.
Right.
But it feels like there are little things, little strategy things and stuff like that elude him. And
his moves drive me nuts sometimes. To be honest.
And I'm a proponent most of the time that when you pull a string in the bullpen, it's up to that string to really work out. And if it doesn't, that's not necessarily the manager's fault. Right. But there's definitely cases where he brings in questionable pitchers. Like, I don't know. Like, Nick Martinez is all well and good, and his numbers out of the bullpen this year have been fine. But was he the best guy to pitch the 8th inning today? I don't know if that's the answer. Like, Sam Maul has pitched pretty decently. Maybe he should have gotten the whole inning, or it's easy to second guess simply because he gave up a home run. Yeah. And it's not Nick Martinez's fault that the Reds scored 0 runs. So that's the other part of that equation, that the lineup itself was kind of questionable with the off day coming. I get it, you want to give an extra day off to guys like Stevenson, but with an off day coming, Tyler Stevenson couldn't have come up the bat. Stuart Fairchild standing on second base in the 7th inning, and you've got Luke Maley coming up to the plate. Tyler Stevenson couldn't have hit there?
Right, that'd be a good time to pinch hit then. Let him do it. And I don't know. It's just like I said, I can nitpick at David Bell all the time.
It's easy to do. Any manager, really.
Yeah, David Bell just does stuff that drives you nuts. But then I also like the culture that he's created with this team, and I think these guys do love playing for him. But the thing is, they better start playing more. I say that he's not going to get fired. He's got two more years on his contract.
Oh yeah.
So
he just got extended.
Yeah, he just got extended. So that's not going to happen. But what is your thoughts on? So just said the hitting is inconsistent. Like, some people brought this up, like, you got to fire the hitting coach. You got to do this. I'm like, do you really believe that has an effect? I mean, I think it has an effect on the team as far as, we got this guy fired. But do you think they're going to go, all right, well, we got him fired. We're going to start hitting a lot better now. I mean, do you think that's something that they should consider? Or, in general, a fire of a coach, does it really motivate teams?
I don't think so. I don't think, number one, I think it's really hard to peg a certain aspect of this team on one guy. Maybe pitching and Derek Johnson is the only thing that really makes sense there. Because when it comes to hitting, they do a lot of advanced scouting, and Jeff Pickler is heavily involved in that. When it comes to, pitching changes that David Bell makes, Derek Johnson is a big part of that, and so is Jeff Pickler as well. There's a lot of different things that this team does that is very analytically driven, that is very, I'm trying to think of the word, collaborative. That's the word.
Yes.
It's very collaborative. So if you get rid of the hitting coach, you don't get rid of the hitting philosophy. And that is really what is the question, because it feels like every other game it changes, and they're doing that based on the scouting report on the pitcher. They were aggressive against Bailey Falter because Bailey Falter does not walk people. They were aggressive swinging against Mitch Keller because Mitch Keller doesn't walk people, and these are guys that fill up the strike zone. But when you don't make that solid contact, that's not the hitting coach's fault. And that is what has been killing them these last two games. Thankfully, they won on Tuesday, even though they still only scored 2 runs. But the game against Mitch Keller, he had 68 pitches entering the 7th inning. Like, I was glad that the Pirates ended up taking him out, because I kind of thought he could have went almost for a complete game the way he was pitching.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was looking pretty good. So that was... And the thing is, they took him out when Candelario didn't even, I thought it was weird. Candelario came on to the on deck circle. They didn't announce him. He just came up there, and then they ran out and changed him, which I just thought that was interesting. I mean, I know he's a switch hitter, so it doesn't exactly matter. But normally, they make sure, so before they do that, you're burning that player. If they announce him, you got to use him. So I just thought that was interesting that the Pirates were like, all right, he's done, and they're that quick out there.
I think that was one of those situations. They had him at the bottom step, and they're like, all right, if they're going to take him out, then we're going to bring you in.
Right.
And that's exactly what they did. Because you saw him, he ran up, and he was taking a couple of quick hacks and then stepping into the box.
Right.
Oof. No wonder he came in and he pops out on the first pitch. It's no wonder he did that. He was all hyped up. He's like, yeah, let's go. Okay, quick. Warm-up swings. All right, let's go.
I saw that. I'm going, we did all that for that? Like, seriously? God. Yeah. That's just the stuff that's frustrating. Anyway, Jeff, you've been on for 51 minutes. I appreciate it, brother. We got the Red Sox coming here this weekend. Big weekend. I'm going to try to go down, hopefully maybe Saturday or Sunday, but plug some stuff before I let you go, brother.
They're getting some good pitching matchups. Or, there's going to be good pitchers on the mound, not necessarily favorable matchups for the Reds. Cutter Crawford, I'm interested to see him pitch because he's pitched really well this year. We are going to be previewing that with our Locked On Red Sox host coming up on Friday. We're going to recap. I was hoping for some trash talk, but instead we're going to be getting trash talk from our Locked On Pirates host, Ethan Smith, over at Locked On Reds, which you can check out everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. And you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs. And you can check out my written work over at CincinnatiRedsTalk.com.
Absolutely awesome. Anytime you can have a chance to shit talk a Pittsburgh fan would be great, but unfortunately we can't.
Sadly.
Damn it, Reds! All right, Jeff, appreciate you, man. Take it easy.
Hey, take it easy.
See ya. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that much as I did. Go follow Jeff and Steven. They do an awesome job over there at Locked On Reds. Like I said, I'm trying to get down there this weekend. I suggest you guys go down. It's going to be a busy, busy weekend. I know they got Pride weekend down there as well. So it's going to be busy. Red Sox coming to town, but it's well worth it because you don't get to see the Red Sox very often. So I'm going to try and go. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be live streaming on ZTV, YouTube, Facebook, X, Threads. You'll follow me on all those, along with Instagram and TikTok. Also, shout out to sponsors of the show, Moorline Lager House. Again, we are doing a pregame party at the Moorline Lager House each and every Sunday during the Bengal season. Again, we do not have the price points yet. As soon as we get that figured out, I will let you know, but it's going to be awesome. We're going to have a breakfast bar, steak, lobster. You're going to have access to the new bourbon room that they should be working on this week. I am really excited about it. So make sure you guys come and join us at the Moorline Lager House, like I said, for each and every Bengals home game. Plus, I'll be doing a show there live every Tuesday during the football season. Also, check out Midwest Best Barbecue and Creamery. They're delicious. I'm not kidding. I love their wings. CTB wings, Uno wings, G-Funk. I've said this over and over again. Take a dart. Just go blindfolded and point at something on the menu. Trust me, you'll like it. Tell Tim and Nicole Ice sent you. Also, looking for some windows and doors? Please check out Meyer Windows and Doors and more at www.meyercincinnati.com for all your window and door needs. Ask Matty Myers. When he shows up with the Jackpot Joey mobile, what does more mean? Also, Hail Mary's your ticket to the game. Go check them out tonight. Go drown your sorrows in some beer specials, some food trucks. They have free parking right there in the heart of Cheviot. Big ass TV screen and an awesome place to watch the game or just hang out with your friends. Again, it's Hail Mary's Sports Bar, Cheviot, Ohio. Your ticket to the game. All right, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you watching the show tomorrow. Pretty sure I got 2 Bengals beat writers on. I got Jay Morrison and my boy Trags. Both of them are going to be on tomorrow. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Reds aren't playing, so we're talking some Bengals. We're getting very, very close. We're 80-something days, I think, away from training camp. I think that's what I read. I can't wait. I'm excited. It's going to be an unbelievable season. I got the tailgate coming. We're going to go to the Super Bowl. The Reds are hopefully going to make the playoffs. I got FC tonight. They'll be getting started here in a little bit, so make sure you go and check them out. My boy Cap and Hube and his girl Hube are at the game, so we'll get another win there. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful day. Throw it up. That's your sports, baby. See ya!